Yeah, I think we're getting close to our mark here to start. Again, this is being will be recorded and will be sent out after the webinar is done, along with the slides to the presentation. A reminder, we're also going live on YouTube here for additional folks in case they have trouble getting in. So yeah, just a few more minutes. Thank you.
Johan, why don't we get started? I want to make sure we've got plenty of time for questions and answers at the end of our presentation.
Yep, sounds great.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Tibma. I'm the Manager of Customer Engagement for the Paid Family and Medical Leave Program and the Department of Family and Medical Leave. I'm joined this morning by some of my colleagues, Erin Olesen, who is our Deputy General Counsel, Katie Schooling, who is our Content Strategist, and our host this morning, Johan Bastidas, who is our Program Coordinator. Do we have any other members of the TFML team with us this morning? Hearing none, I think we'll move on. I just wanted to reiterate a couple of the things that Johan has already mentioned. This session is being recorded and the deck will be distributed. So no need to take copious notes. You can sit back and enjoy your coffee and listen to the presentation. We are happy to answer any questions that you have. If you want to provide those in the chat, we'll be stopping periodically to answer questions, and then we'll have some generous time left to answer at the end. For all of the questions that we don't get a chance to address, we'll be compiling those questions and issuing an FAQ. All of this information can be found on our website, but we will be sending out both the presentation and the link to the recording, as well as an FAQ in the form of an evaluation form after the session is complete. So you should expect to receive that today or tomorrow. Just a reminder that we can't address any specific cases. If you have some general circumstances or a hypothetical case that you'd like to present to us, we're happy to address that. And this presentation does not apply if you have an exemption to the program. So if you are exempted from PFML and have chosen to go with a private carrier, then this session is not for you. You'll have an extra hour back in your day. I wanted to let you know that we are at a very exciting juncture for the program. On July 1st, we go live with Caring Leave, which is a piece of our family leave program. And Friday, we're going to be releasing all of the content related to Caring Leave on mass.gov. So right now, what you'll see is a very skinny down version of content, but Friday is the day when we present all of that new information for you, and that will include the forms that will be required for Caring Leave. All right, Johan, let's get started. I wanted to review with you what our objective is for the session today. we're looking to inform employers on how to educate their employees on the leave options that are available through the Paid Family and Medical Leave Program. And we want to help employers maintain program integrity by showing you how you can effectively review and manage applications. The information that you provide is critical to us being able to make good decisions on issuing these benefits. And so we're counting on your participation. I often refer to the three-legged stool here, and we've got information that's provided by the employee or claimant themselves. We've got information that comes from the medical provider, and we have information that comes from you as the employer. And we need for all three of those pieces to be in place in order to have an effectively run program. So we're really happy that you're here with us this morning. We look forward to some great dialogue with you and look forward to presenting the agenda that we've provided below. You can go on to the next slide, Johan. So what is PFML? Paid Family and Medical Leave Program is a two-pronged program. It provides temporary income replacement to eligible employees under a variety of circumstances. One might be welcoming a new child into the family, whether that is through birth or adoption or foster care placement. We are happy to provide bonding time for those families. We also provide benefits to those who are struck by a serious illness or injury. And the piece that we're going to be focusing on today is the need to take care of an ill or ailing relative. And then the last piece of the puzzle is for certain military considerations, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too. The second piece of PFML in terms of benefits is job protections. So when an employee goes, goes out on leave, they have the assurance that they'll be returning to a position that is either the same as what they had when they went out or something that is equivalent. So it needs to be equivalent in terms of pay status, employment benefits, length of service credit, and seniority. So these are the two tenets of our program, both important for employees who are facing critical life situations. So when did Massachusetts start the PFML program? This actually was almost 3 years ago. It's hard to believe that so much time has passed, but the PFML program came into existence as part of the Grand Bargain, which was legislation signed back in June of 2018. And it established three primary objectives. One was establishing the permanent sales tax holiday, the increase in minimum wage, and then finally the creation of the Paid Family and Medical Leave Program. So we started up, because we're a self-funded program, we started up in October of 2019 by taking contributions through our partner, MassDOR. We started taking contributions to fill up the piggy bank so that we can now issue benefits for the program. So we started offering most benefits in January of this year. And now with the introduction of caring leave, this completes the program's mission of providing comprehensive family and medical leave. One question that we get quite often is, how is PFML different than FMLA? And I wanted to provide you with this visual that really shows where some of the major distinctions are. First, FMLA is a federal law. It applies to businesses with 50 employees or more. And the eligibility requirements are that an employee be employed for at least 12 months and have worked 1,250 hours. There are no contributions from the employer for FMLA because it is an unpaid program, but it does offer job protections. Why, yes, it is. So what the benefits for FMLA come in the form of job protection. PFML, on the other hand, is a state program, and it applies to all employers across the state, regardless of size. There are certain exemptions. Municipalities are exempt, and there is a host of other ones that are exempt as well. But for the most part, all employers are included in this program. For PFML, employee eligibility is based on earnings rather than the time served with the company. So an employee has to have earned $5,400 and 30 times the benefit amount in the past 4 quarters. So this is consistent with DUA and their eligibility requirements, but it is different from FMLA. So an employee could have worked somewhere else, taken a new job, and go out on leave as soon as they've met these income requirements. In terms of employer responsibility for PFML, employers are responsible for collecting and remitting the contributions on behalf of their employees. So even if they're a small company and they're not contributing as well, the minimum requirement is that they pass on the contributions of their employees. If it's a company of 25 or more, then the employer is responsible for sharing in that contribution and making remittances as well. PFML also, as I mentioned previously, offers job protections. These are a little bit more expansive than they are under the FMLA program, so something worth taking a look at. But those are some of the major distinctions between PFML and FMLA. We thought we'd give you just an idea of what's been going on since we started accepting applications for benefits on January 1st. And it's really almost a dead heat in terms of the medical leave claims versus the family leave claims, because for bonding, benefits can be taken within the first year of a child's life or adoption or placement. We started out strong with family leave, but medical leave has caught up, and now we are currently issuing as many, if not more, benefits for medical leave. So it gives you an idea here in terms of the totals. We have been able to process and approve 163,000 claims, and we've paid out about, now I think the number is about 160 million. So I wanted to give you an overview of the types of leave that are available. As I mentioned, we offer family leave and medical leave. Medical leave is pretty straightforward. Medical leave is to take care of your own serious medical condition. Family leave is a little bit more comprehensive, and there are more aspects to it. We have bonding leave, which I mentioned is available during the first 12 months of a child's life, or placement or adoption, and that is for up to 12 weeks. That can be taken in conjunction with medical leave if a mother needs recovery time from delivery, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Then there is active duty. We provide assistance, exigency assistance for situations where a family member is deployed overseas and the family needs help in their daily living activities and making sure that everything stays on track. So we offer up to 12 weeks of leave for that as well. I think it's really important to note here that there is additional time that's available for a family member who needs to care for someone who's been injured in the line of duty. So there are up to 26 weeks of benefits available for that. However, we have a total benefit amount of 26 weeks for a benefit year. you can combine medical and family leave to come up with that 26-week total. But you cannot take more than 12 weeks in the family category. So medical leave is available for up to 20 weeks, and family leave is available for up to 12 weeks. So if someone has taken bonding leave, let's say they had a newborn in January, they went out on leave and took off January, February, and March, then if they have a situation where they need to care for a family member and that need arises in July, they would have used up their bucket of time for family leave. So that's an important distinction and something that you need to keep in mind as employees come to you for advice.
Mary, we have time for some questions here. I have a couple on the slides.
Oh, sure. Yep. Then let's take those questions now.
Sure. First one is in relation to medical and bonding leave. Can somebody take, how much total time can somebody take with in combination of both leaves?
That would be the maximum of 26 weeks in a benefit year. So you can combine. So let's just say someone wants to take the 12 weeks in bonding, and that does give them 14 additional weeks that they could take for medical leave, if that's what's warranted. And again, we're going to talk more about this, but it's based on what the medical provider feels is appropriate. There are no set limits. It's not 6 weeks for vaginal birth, 8 weeks for cesarean, as is the case for many disability programs. So it's up to the medical provider to determine the appropriate amount of time. Does that answer the question? Erin, do you want to chime in there? Anything to add?
No, I think you covered it perfectly. It really is dependent on what the medical provider recommends, and as long as the medical provider recommends the amount of medical leave that they receive, they can receive up to 26 weeks.
And the second question is, are employees able to take bonding leave, let's say 12 weeks, and then take after that another 12 weeks of care and leave?
No. For any type of family leave, there's a maximum of 12 weeks. So you could take 6 weeks of bonding and 6 weeks of caring, but once you've reached that 12-week maximum for family leave, that's all you can take.
Okay. I think that answers most of the general questions regarding this slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we really want to focus on the meat of this presentation, which is about the role for the employer and the responsibilities that come along with that. First thing that I want to talk about is the role of a leave administrator. And in order for an employer to have an active voice in the process, they need to have a registered leave administrator. And the leave administrator is the person who's responsible for reviewing and processing any claims that come from an employee. And if you haven't registered a leave administrator, there's a link here that you can use that will walk you through the steps of registering as a leave administrator. Once you create an employer account, there's one more step that you need to go through, and that is to verify that you are in fact authorized to review benefits on behalf of your company. So we put in place this additional security measure, both for you and for your employees. And what we've asked is that you coordinate with your CFO or your financial officer, the person that submits the taxes for your company. as you all know, we have a partnership with the Department of Revenue, and they're the ones that collect all of the contributions for the PFML program. And so they work cooperatively with us and have provided us with information on what contribution was made to the PFML program for the last quarter. And so that's a number that you're going to need to obtain from them. You're going to plug it into the system, and it will verify you as the leave administrator. So we know it's a little bit cumbersome in some companies to do that, but we wanted to provide some way of double checking to make sure that you have authorization to review claims. So the important point here is that if you have not registered a leave administrator with DFML, you're really giving up your right to have a say in how benefits are awarded. And while DFML is the one that makes the final determination, we take into consideration what you have to say very heavily and feel that it's an important part of the program integrity. So if you haven't registered a leave administrator, I would suggest that you do that right after we're done. So let's talk about the employer's role. As I mentioned, the employer plays a really critical role in this process. First, in educating your employees about the benefits that are available. And we want you to consider this to be just another card in your deck of benefits that you offer to your employees. And we ask that you give them information about the program with the authorization form and by displaying a poster. I know this is difficult to do in your in many remote situations and under current conditions, but we ask that you follow your company's policy on displaying of information in the event that you do have remote workers. We also ask that employees talk to you as their employer before they start their applications, and you can help advise them as to the best route for them to take. You can discuss the type of leave that they're going to be taking, the frequency and the schedule of their continued employment, and any other factors. And what I mean by the schedule and the frequency is that employees can take a full-time leave, they can take a part-time leave, and they can take an intermittent leave. And depending on the medical circumstances, you know, it may be that an intermittent leave is most appropriate if someone is receiving dialysis or chemotherapy, or you know, a part-time leave might work best for a new parent who wants to spend some time at home with their child, but also wants to keep up to date on what's happening with their workplace work. So it's a conversation that you need to have with the employee, because we ask, or we require, excuse me, that that you agree on any sort of intermittent arrangement that you might come up with. So and part-time as well, we want to have some agreement there between the employer and the employee. So the conversation is important to start early. And the third item here is ensuring that the employee gets the correct benefit amount and the correct length of leave. And you can do that by double checking their applications and letting us know if they've taken any other leave during the benefit year that might contribute. You can help us by, if they're taking any sort of short-term disability at the same time that they're applying for benefits. These are all important things for us to know. We ask that you verify wages, that those numbers are provided to us by DOR. So we ask that you verify that information for us. And so it's really critical that you give us insight that we may not have otherwise. Again, this is just really to re-emphasize the importance of having an open dialogue about PFML and making sure that you're in alignment on this. We've reinforced the importance of this by actually asking on the application that the employee fills out if they've talked to the employer, and if so, on what date. We ask that an employee give at least 30 days notice for a planned event like an elective surgery or the birth or placement of a child. We know that those dates may vary, and so we're looking for best effort on 30 days, and as soon as possible for an unexpected or unplanned life event. We know that you can't predict some of these things in happening, but we do want for employers to have as much notice as they possibly can. So let's talk about how DFML communicates with an employer once a claim has been filed. Our primary means of notification is through email. And when you register as a leave administrator, we get your contact information so that we can send you notifications. And the first email that you'll receive is one letting you know that an employee has started an application for PFML benefits. And the second email you'll receive is stating that the employee has completed their application. So you may get these wham bam right in a row, and that's okay. That's if nothing to be concerned about. It's just that your employee has gone in and both started and completed their application in one fell swoop. The third email that you'll receive is when DFML has completed the review process for the claim. So you will be notified when that determination has been made. Again, we're just reinforcing here the need for having a registered and verified leave administrator. Otherwise, if we don't have contact information for you, we can't notify you of any claims that have been filed or are pending. Next, let's talk about what happens when you review a claim that's been filed. We want for you to confirm that the information provided in the application is accurate, and we want you to provide us with any additional information. Some examples of things that you might want to provide are other instances of paid and unpaid leave that a worker's taken in the past benefit year. That's really important for us to determine whether they have met or exceeded their allowance. Work patterns or hours, the worker's service time and with the company and their wages. We also are looking to you to tell us about situations where you think there might be potential fraud. And this is something that we can take and investigate further, but it's important that you let us know if something just doesn't feel right. So an employer has 10 days to respond. And if we don't hear from a verified leave administrator in that time, then we go ahead and process the application based on the information that has been provided to us. So again, there is a time constraint here. Really important that you are aware of the timeline and provide that information. One other avenue that's available for employers, in addition to going in to look at the material online, there's a link in that email that'll take you to the information, but you can also call our contact center and they can assist you as well. I see that Lisa Shepard has joined us. Hi, Lisa. I wondered if you wanted to weigh in here because your team is responsible for the review of these claims. Is there any other information that you want to call out here?
No, not specifically. I think you're covering it. I'm looking at the questions and kind of answering some too. So if something comes up, we can, some general themes in the questions, we'll go back and address them.
Okay, well, be sure and jump in if there's something that you'd like to add.
All right, I do have some questions actually here. We could take some. Some of these were going back to where we started as far as the PFML and how it interacts with other different benefits such as short-term disability. Mainly, the question is, can they take one benefit first and then take PFML?
Erin, would you like to address that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a bunch of comments in the Q&A about this, and I'm trying to get to you all. But in terms of coordinating benefits together, if you take, for instance, short-term disability or an employer-sponsored benefit before PFML, what PFML will look at is, is this benefit taken for a similar reason to PFML, and was it taken when PFML was available? So if somebody takes short-term disability for a medical condition and they take 10 weeks and it's, within the period of time when PFML was available, so after January 1st, and then they apply to take PFML, they won't be eligible for the full 20 weeks of PFML if the short-term disability was taken for a serious medical condition that would have qualified for PFML. They will only be eligible for 10 weeks if they've already taken 10 weeks of short-term disability. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. And along with that, what about PTO and any other accrued kind of leave? Can I take that to supplement my salary if the PFML benefits do not reach what my weekly average wage is?
Sure. So right now, paid time off like vacation or sick leave is not allowed to supplement benefits. If you take paid time off or vacation, then PFML and paid time off cannot be used in the same week. There's a different rule for short-term disability or for employer-sponsored like family leave. So if you're receiving short-term disability at 60% of your salary, you can take PFML alongside that for the same period of weeks, just that the benefit will be adjusted to make sure you're not receiving more than your average weekly wage.
So Erin, I know a lot of people are wondering about using PTO for that first week when PFML, there's a waiting period of 7 days. Could you address that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up, Mary. For the first 7-day period, when you have a waiting period and you're not receiving PFML benefits, you can absolutely feel free to use the PTO or vacation during that time period, and it won't affect your benefits from PFML since you're not receiving benefits for that week anyway.
Great, thank you. Johan, I'm a little concerned about us getting through the content regarding caring leave. So maybe we could continue and we'll take as many questions as we can towards the end. Plus, we hope this will be the beginning of continuing dialogues with employers. So we're happy to schedule future webinars to address some of these issues.
That's great.
Okay. So here are just some specific examples of other paid and unpaid leave that the employee might have taken. These are things that we're looking for you to identify for us. And I should say also that we have launched an employer dashboard. And this is, I think we have a link on a subsequent slide, but this is a place where you can gain an overview of the claims that are pending for your employer, and you can go in and look at information there as well. And on the 15th of July, we're also going to be providing some other enhancements, and those include a more expansive area where you can provide comments on other leave that's been taken. And right now we just have a text box that you can provide that information, but that's going to be built out and much more developed over the course of the next 3 weeks. So I've already touched on this, but just to review, there are 3 different types of leave that can be taken: continuous or full-time leave, reduced or part-time leave, and intermittent leave. And you should review these with the employee to make sure that you are applying, or that they are applying for the type of leave that best suits their circumstance. Well, as you can see, I jumped ahead a little bit in talking about the employer dashboard, but this is something that's been requested by the employer community. We know that you want to have one place that you can go to see all of the claims that have been submitted. And so you may want to, once you receive this deck, you may want to bookmark that address there so that you can go in and take a look comprehensively. So this also gives companies that have multiple EINs the ability to go in and see all of those together. So this is an area where we'll continue to expand and to grow the capabilities, but this is the 1.0 version, and look forward to subsequent releases, and we'll be sure to let you all know about that. So I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Katie, and she can tell you about the updates to the medical leave program.
Thanks, Mary. So again, conscious of time, so what I'm going to do is probably go through these a little quickly, but as we've mentioned a few times, you'll be getting a copy of the slides as well as a recording of this webinar. So what you need to know about medical leave is we have updated the medical leave form. There's now a form just for medical leave. It's called Certification of Your Serious Health Condition Form. And what we've done is we've streamlined the form and tried to make it simpler and easier to use after doing a bunch of usability testing. So this is the first page, nothing new, but there'll be a lot of explanation and definitions before that. As with the past form, what we're doing is this is the form that we're asking employees to submit as part of their medical leave. And the most important part of that, of course, is for them, their healthcare provider to attest to their serious health condition. So this is the part of the form where the health provider will basically say that their patient has a serious health condition and what is the criteria that is supporting that. Just to reiterate what a serious health condition is, and again, the more lengthy explanation of this is on the form and also on mass.gov, but DFML defers to the expertise of the healthcare provider to make a determination on an application. We are relying on the healthcare provider to basically attest to the employee's serious health condition on the DFML or the FMLA form. And this is defined by at least 2 conditions, which is 1 night of inpatient care in a hospital, hospice, or residential medical facility, or continuing treatment by a healthcare provider. And as I said, there's more to that definition, but that's the overarching criteria that we look for. And we do ask for a little bit more detail. Next slide. Oh, we didn't include that, but basically part of the form that you should know about is we do ask, if necessary, for the healthcare provider to give a little more detail around symptoms or treatments or things like that before they attest and sign the form. All right, so let's quickly go into the star of the show, which is family leave to care for a family member. So as you all know, the program is launching July 1st. As Mary mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, all of the content, including the form that'll be part of this program, which is a new form, will be live on Friday. We are making the content and the form live on Friday to give employees a bit of time to go to the family member's healthcare provider to get this form filled out, but no applications will be accepted until July 1st when it's live. So what we want to go over quickly for this is what the employer role is around family leave to care for a family member with a serious health condition. And this is to validate or contest the familial relationship, the total amount of leave taken for family leave, the type or duration of caring leave activities, and other eligibility criteria. And we'll go into more detail around those as we go through the form. So the first thing you should know about family leave that is different to care for a family member is obviously what is considered an eligible family member. So this is an overarching view of it. This list is pretty encompassing. We do go into more detail on the form itself in terms of an explanation, as well as the website, to go through all the different formulas of biological, foster parents and local parentis, all those different types of family relationships. But we do provide this list on the form for the employee to check off their relationship to their family member.
Right, and I might just add here that this definition of eligible family member is different than it is for FMLA. So there are relationships that may be eligible under this program that would not be eligible for FMLA. So it's really important that you know how to check back and see if that relationship is eligible here.
Good point, Mary. All right, next slide. All right, so this is an important slide and an important point, especially for employers, which is, does previous family caring leave taken count towards the 12-week allotment we've just talked about? So here's what you need to know. If a employee took family leave to care for a family member under another program, it does not count towards their 12-week allotment under PFML to take care of a family member with a serious health condition. If they have taken any other sort of family leave under PFML, that is to bond with the child or military leave to manage affairs, then it does count towards that 12-week allotment. I'm sure there'll be some more questions about that, but that's the basic information we want to convey. Either way, regardless, there is a 26-week cap on all leave taken in a benefit year. Next slide. So this is by no means an exhaustive list, but it's just an idea of what some of the activities a employee would do for a family member. And there's the obvious one I think that we all think of, which is the daily living needs that a family member cannot perform because of their serious health condition, which is anything from helping them bathe, providing meals, mobility, prescriptions, but we also include transportation to facilities for appointments, mental health or psychological support for a serious health condition, because mental conditions are included, such as taking them to therapy or getting medication for chronic depression. I think this is particularly important when you think about comorbidities around things like diabetes and other chronic health conditions. And then, of course, helping make arrangements for changes in care, such as a transfer to a nursing home. Next slide. Okay, so these are the two. This is the form that we were just talking about. And so this is a new form that is just for family leave to care for a family member with a serious health condition. And obviously, those two categories are listed here. Active duty and caring. Next slide. Okay, so I did include a lot of the screenshots of the form itself. So if I go a little quickly, just know that they're there for you. You can also find the form itself on the website as of the 25th. So this is just the employee information. And what we tried to make sure is that they know what they're applying for. So they have the correct form. So if they're applying for leave for family member serious health condition or for someone who was related to military service, they check that box. Next slide. And this is obviously where on the form that they will say how they are related to this family member. And we do provide a link to sort of the more broad definitions that we were talking about so that they can be clear on what they're checking off. Next slide. And then this is the last part of what the employee fills out, which is their family member's name and their address and their date of birth. One thing to point out here is that the family member does not need to reside in the state of Massachusetts in order to qualify. The employee has to be eligible under the state, in the state of Massachusetts with all the criteria we've already talked about, but the family member does not. So when they put their address in there, it can be in another country. Next
But we
slide.
do
Okay.
require certification from the medical provider that is caring for that individual, and they do need to be licensed in the state or country that they practice in.
Correct. And this is where the healthcare provider will then obviously do what we rely on to basically sign on a claim, which is attest to the family member's serious health condition, check off the following criteria that basically will apply to the health condition, give an estimate of when the health condition began. Again, this is an estimate. And then they will also let them, on the form, they'll indicate if it has something to do with the patient's military service. Next slide. And finishing up that, these are both text boxes where the healthcare provider can provide some basically more relevant medical facts around the condition itself. So symptoms, diagnosis, etc. Then they're attesting to the fact that the employee will be required to take leave to care for their patient. And then they can go into a little bit more detail around what types of activities they think the employee can provide for their patient. And again, this is all part of us relying on the expertise of the healthcare provider to say this is needed, this is why, this is the condition, and this is how the employee is going to be helpful. Next slide. All right, now we're to common questions. Turn it over to you, Mary.
Great. Well, I think that we've addressed this in large part already, but yes, an employee can combine medical and bonding leave. So if there is a serious health condition either preceding the birth or following the birth, then they can apply for medical leave and then combine that with the bonding leave. So there we're taking from the two different buckets, right? We've got the medical piece of it for their own serious medical health condition and bonding that would come from the other bucket. So it can't exceed 26 weeks here, but it can be provided. I think this is something where the medical provider can really help to give some guidance here and remind the expectant mom who's focused on spending time with that baby that they may need some medical time as well. So it's important from a business flow process that the birth mother apply for medical leave first. It's a much easier process, and if they do it that way, then there's no second waiting period to receive benefits. And if there's an adjustment that needs to be made based on the date of birth of the child or the adoption or placement, they can call the contact center to start the claim for bonding. Erin, do you want to weigh in here? This is an area that's ripe with variations.
In terms of how to coordinate medical and bonding leave, I mean, I think you've covered it pretty well. Essentially what should be happening is that the employee should be taking their medical leave first if it's related to a pregnancy or a childbirth, and they should apply for that first, as mentioned. And then, the doctor, as I think we said earlier, will certify whatever time is medically necessary. And then once the medical leave is taken, the bonding leave can be taken after that. I think somebody had a question about if a baby came early or something like that, and that's just a sort of situation where, you would seek to amend the leave to start earlier.
Which is a really nice segue into our next question here. Can my employees extend their leave, and do they need to fill out new paperwork? Yes, they can extend their leave. They need to notify the department within 14 days of their end date, and the employer is notified at that time. So the healthcare provider does need to confirm the extension, and so you will get some additional notification and information to review on that. I think the contact center is a great resource for employees to call if they do need to make some adjustments to the dates that they've provided. Say their surgical date is moved, or the baby arrives 2 weeks early, or you know, any sort of change in circumstance. The contact center can be a great resource. The other thing that I think we haven't mentioned is that bonding leave does not require any sort of a medical certification form. Katie's shown us the 2 forms that we have for medical leave and for family leave, but bonding, we do ask for proof of the baby's birth, adoption, or placement, but there is no form to complete per se. All right, looks like we have a couple of minutes. Johan, do you want to throw a question or two out for us?
Yeah, of course. Looking here at the Q&A section. Question is, if an employee is out for a qualifying reason, but only for 7 days, should they still apply? If they don't apply, then tracking of that time off is on the employer, correct? That's all part of the question.
Erin, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So that's a little bit of a complicated question. We don't necessarily want to make recommendations about whether or not somebody should apply in a given scenario, but if somebody is only out for 7 consecutive days, then they probably would not receive a benefit. So certainly that would be a consideration, I think, for most people, of whether or not you want to apply and whether it makes sense. In terms of counting the time, if you as the employer know that this leave was taken for a qualifying reason, you know that this is definitely a serious health condition, that is time that could count towards the PFML allotments, and you can certainly keep track of that. And if the person applies for additional medical leave in the future, this is, you know, something that you could report when responding to the employer inquiry. Say, yes, this person already took a week of leave off, either for this medical condition or another medical condition.
Thank you. Switching gears a little bit, going back into the intermittent leave. The question is there a minimum number of hours or days the employee needs to be out of work to qualify as intermittent leave?
That's a very good question. So in terms of the minimum amount of time, there's not technically. I think, you know, I believe there was a minimum amount. I think I want to say it's 15, but don't quote me on this. I don't remember off the top of my head that the department will pay. But intermittent leave as a general matter is very broadly defined. So it's really any sort of situation where you have 2 or more chunks of time off taken that is taken for a qualifying reason, as opposed to continuous leave where you have, you know, all of the time at one go, and then reduced leave where it's a regular schedule of, you know, half time or quarter time or something like that. So intermittent leave, you could see somebody with, you know, taking half a day off or 2 hours off or something like that.
So, Johan, I'm going to jump in here for just a second, if I could. I know we've reached the 10 o'clock hour, and I just wanted to respond to a couple of questions that I've seen about materials that are might be available to share with employees. So, part of the material that we'll be releasing on Friday is a series of one-pagers that are designed to share with your employees about the different types of leave. And that information, it will be in a section where it's resources that can be downloaded. So we'll also send out information to any of you who are subscribed to our newsletter. You go onto our homepage and sign up for the newsletter there, and we'll send out links to all those documents as well. We're also in the process of finalizing a couple of toolkits. One is a toolkit for employers, and the other is a toolkit for employees. And again, this is a digital resource that you can share with with your employees, and we would encourage you to do so. Again, this is all material that will be coming out on the release on Friday. Katie, is there anything that I left out there in terms of materials and resources?
No, I think that's all except for, did you mention the video?
Oh, no, I didn't. Thank you.
It's just a general video.
We have
It's just a video overview of the program. So we'll be sharing that as well.
Yep. So that's something that you could put a link in your newsletter and let people know that caring leave has begun. I know we've gotten a lot of really great questions, and we're going to be taking these and categorizing them and summarizing them. And this sort of exchange helps us to improve the content that we provide and gives us food for thought as we move forward in our communications efforts. So we value your participation. We learn as much from you as you learn from us, and we look forward to future events. We'll be scheduling additional webinars based on the information that is requested and the types of questions that we receive. So we also do have a couple of advisory boards, and we're looking to add to our small employer advisory group. So if there's anyone out there that would be willing to take part, please do send us your information in the chat, and we'd be happy to add you to our group. We have a number of different stakeholder groups, and if you're a large employer too, come and join us. We'd be happy to have you help us to better inform the residents of the Commonwealth. So,
Mary, if I can just remind everybody, for more information, please, on the follow-up email that we'll be sending the presentation along with the recording, there will be an option for you to sign up to our newsletter. There's a great resource for information. You please, go ahead and complete the survey there. It's going to allow us to customize the information you get. For example, you can identify as an employer, small, big, etc., and you'll get specific information according to your needs. And then just to remind everybody, we do have a couple town hall sessions coming up for employees. So if your employees have questions regarding PFML, please join us. You can sign up through our website, mass.gov/DFML.
Right. So that one is slanted towards employees, but certainly employers are welcome as well. Oh, good slide. Thank you, Johan. Here is the information about our contact center. We also have information for DOR and again, our website address. So I thank you very much for being with us, and we look forward to further conversation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.